We previously started the process by removing the 3 Phillips head screws that holds in the grass deflector assembly and removing the assembly. We'll remove the spool of string by pushing in on the sides and pulling up on the housing cover, and now removing the spool from the center. We will be using a Torx T15 screwdriver that we will use to remove the screws from the handle. Remove the screws on each end as well as in the center, and pull the handle apart. Now I've located the screws that we also need to remove in order to separate the 2 halves of the cover. Use the Torx to remove each of those screws and pull them out with a magnet if they don't come out easily. Stick a little magnet in each hole and the screws will pop out. You can now separate the 2 halves of the lower housing assembly. Pulling off the green glamour ring will allow you to separate the motor housing assembly and remove the top part of that. With a pair of pliers, grab the end of the motor shaft, holding it tightly. This will allow you to rotate in a counterclockwise direction the string trimmer assembly. Complete the rotation until the string assembly is removed from the shaft. Examine the protruding end of the shaft and make sure that the threads on that shaft are intact and have no problems. The reason for this disassembly was to replace the automatic feed mechanism, which doesn't work all that well, with a bump feed trimmer head mechanism update. However, we discovered that this update is not available for this particular string trimmer and will not work. We discovered that by going to the website. So please do not bother to use this update on this particular model. Let's go ahead and reassemble by holding the shaft on the end and twisting on in a clockwise direction the spool housing. When reassembling, pay particular attention to the tab that sticks out from the pivot assembly. You want this tab to engage into the spring sitting into the motor housing assembly. Once you push this in place, then go ahead and squeeze the 2 halves of the motor housing assembly together, then lock them in place with the glamour ring. Now place the lower part of the lower housing assembly in place and put the handle through the holes in the housing assembly. Put the top part of the house assembly in place and attach the handles, the 2 sections of the handle, and now place screws in each of the holes that you previously removed from the motor housing assembly. Once that's complete, go ahead and place screws in the handle and screw those back on tightly. And place screws into the screw holes on the lower housing assembly. Making sure each is tightened. Now let's place the spool of string back into the string housing. Slide the end of the spool through the hole in the housing and place the spool cover back in place. Lock it in place. The last piece to assemble is the grass deflector. Go ahead and slide it in place. It only fits one way. There are 3 screws that hold the deflector in place. Go ahead and use your, in this case, you're actually using a Phillips screwdriver, and tighten down the 3 screws. Now make sure that the pivot assembly works correctly by pushing down on the handle thus allowing the grass deflector and housing and motor to rotate. Once that is functional, you have completed your reassembly. I hope this video has been informative and useful to you to help you disassemble and reassemble your Ryobi string trimmer. Thank you.